Hola, bienvenidos a Adelante Chicago. I'm Lourdes Duarte. Thank you so much for joining us today. Well, even before he became a priest, Father Dom was a devout Catholic. He was often the one who encouraged his family to go to Mass. He has been an advocate for victims of domestic violence. He stands against injustices and promotes peace. Truly an example of those looking to make a difference in their community. So we want to welcome him to our studios as he celebrates 60 years of being a priest, not just here in Chicago, but in other parts of the country as well. Thank you for coming in. This is so touching, I think, to have you here, not just because of what you represent for Chicago, but for a certain community as well, for the Pilsen neighborhood. You've watched its growth, and I want to begin there, sort of how you've seen that transformation evolve in Pilsen.
Well, that's true. I came to the Pilsen neighborhood as the pastor of St. Pius V Parish in 1986. And at that time, there were still a lot of Hispanics still coming to Chicago. There weren't that many going to the suburbs as there are today. And we were a major port of entry. So we had the Greyhound bus station nearby. We had the railroad yards, freight trains bringing people up from Texas. We had the major highways, the Stevenson. So we had a lot of people coming into the neighborhood. So when I became pastor, I realized that we had to respond to these immigrants. And that was our primary focus. What can we do to help them? So if they came to us, you know, my basic vision of reaching out to people and responding was, well, what do they need? You know, tell me what you need. And so people came, they needed clothing, so we ended up creating a secondhand store. They needed food. We ended up creating a food pantry and a soup kitchen. They needed shelter. We created a shelter for both women and men, 2 different shelters. So that was what we were trying to do, respond to people.
So create the structure, really, and what's needed to help and assist the individuals that were coming in. And through that, you helped co-found the Resurrection Project, which is still around today and is an integral part of helping so many people in the Pilsen community and throughout Chicago.
Well, there were 2 other pastors and myself that we were concerned that the church was not doing enough for the systems that were in the neighborhood, whether they be housing, security, cleanliness and cleanup.
We're seeing some pictures of you and some of your work. Yeah.
We had to we had to get together as pastors, and we got 6 churches to put $5,000 in each. We hired our first person, and he's still the executive director.
That's incredible.
And we started working on things in the community. One of the first things we worked on was cleanup, because interesting, Pilsen never had the trucks to come through and clean the streets. And cleaning up or picking up garbage in the alleys was also not very frequent. So we decided we got to get this cleaned up. So, and the people were really great. They responded. So we did that, and then we started working on gangs, because at that time in the 1990s, the Pilsen neighborhood was the #1 most frequent gang violent neighborhood in Chicago. We had 6 gangs that were operative in our neighborhood, and that was tremendous. So the people were very concerned about their children.
And their safety, right? Which is something that continues today, not just in Pilsen, but through every community, really, in Chicago.
Pilsen has, of course, changed, because now it's not 93% Hispanic, it might be 75% Hispanic. And it has been gentrified, but I don't know that it's actually gentrified. What's happened is there's some developers who've come in and taken advantage of empty lots and so forth. But we, as the Resurrection Project, decided housing was one of the major things we had to work on. We wanted people to stay in the community, not leave the community. Make the community better so you can stay here. Make the schools better. Make the transportation better. The security better. So that's what we ended up doing with the Resurrection Project. So it's now a major Economic Development Corporation in the city of Chicago.
And you've been successful.
So
Okay.
we've created 800 affordable rental units that we manage. We built 156 affordable homes and sold them mostly to people in the neighborhood so they could stay. That's what we wanted.
Let me ask you this, because I told you as you were walking in today, you don't retire, right? You continue your work, and so now you've shifted your focus to domestic violence and addressing that. And how do we put more programs in place to make sure that we ease some of those issues? So how does your work continue?
Well, when I was pastor, I hired a counselor on my staff, and she had a full agenda, within a week or two. And she very quickly told me, most of my clients are women and most of them are victims of domestic violence. So I said, well, teach me how to recognize this problem and how to respond to it, which she did. And the more I talked about it, more victims came. So we ended up developing a program, which I think was the largest parish or church-based program in the United States about domestic violence. We had 7 full-time people working on domestic violence in our parish. So that program is now part of the Resurrection Project, and it continues. But when I stopped being pastor around 2006, I wanted to take this on the road and go to other churches and talk about it. So that's what I've done. And I've been to over 185 different churches in Chicago, in Cook County and Lake County, talking about this and then forming a group to work on it in their community. So this has been very satisfying.
So the work continues. Okay. As we look ahead to what happens in many of our neighborhoods in the coming years, one of the things that Chicago's dealing with right now is a new influx of immigrants, right? With the Venezuelan community coming in, people sort of trying to figure out how to handle that. What do you think we learned from your experience as you were trying to make sure that people had the resources that they needed to be successful? What do you think we learned from that to try to help some of these individuals coming in today?
I myself have been personally enriched and helped by the immigrants, and I think the country has been. The values that people who coming into this country, particularly from Latin America, from Mexico, they bring a culture with them, which is a little different from the United States, primarily European culture. And that is a wealth that enriches us. They bring a spirit of hard work. I mean, this morning I interviewed an immigrant woman who just wanted to work, and she was just trying to find a job, and I think that's what I found, and I think that's one of the things that they've brought to this country and a way in which they've enriched us.
Okay. So work, obviously a very important part of trying to help some of the folks that are coming in.
Yeah. Well,
today.
I think they have many other values. I always like to talk about the values that they bring because there's such discrimination against Hispanics and African Americans and Asians. I wanted to make sure that they appreciated who they are and what they brought to this country. They should not give it up to be more like the white folks from Europe, but be yourselves and celebrate your traditions and your history and who you are.
Well, Father Dom, we appreciate your time and all of your work over the last 60 years in the Pilsen community and in Chicago. Thank you very much for your work. Happy to have you here with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Delightful.
And the Resurrection Project, if you want more information on that and how they can help, resurrectionproject.org is a website that you need to go to, and you'll find a number of links there.